I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I thought I understood the depths of cruelty that could exist within a family. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what my sister Lydia announced at my 32nd birthday dinner. The restaurant glowed with soft candlelight. Our family gathered around the table, and I remember thinking how perfect everything seemed. How naive I was. Because in less than 5 minutes, my sister would stand up, place her hand on her stomach, and tell everyone she was pregnant with my husband Derek's child. She expected me to crumble. She expected tears, screaming, maybe even me running from the restaurant. What she did not expect was for me to smile, raise my glass, and calmly reveal the truth that would destroy them both. Before we dive into what happened that night, let me know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. If you have ever dealt with family betrayal or someone who thought they could break you, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you are going to want to hear how this story unfolds, because sometimes the best revenge is not losing your composure. It is watching everything fall apart for those who tried to hurt you. The evening started normally enough. My parents had reserved a private room at Giovanni's, my favorite Italian restaurant downtown. The warm scent of garlic bread and marinara filled the air. My father was telling one of his lengthy stories about his fishing trip. My mother was fussing over the flower arrangement she had brought. And Derek sat beside me, his hand occasionally squeezing mine under the table. He seemed nervous, but I attributed it to the stress from his job. He had been distant for months, coming home late, taking phone calls in the other room, but I convinced myself it was just a difficult project at work. Lydia arrived 20 minutes late, as usual. She swept into the room wearing a tight red dress that hugged every curve, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders. She had always been the prettier one, the charming one, the one who got whatever she wanted. Growing up, I watched her manipulate our parents, boyfriends, teachers, anyone really. She had a gift for making people believe she was innocent even when she was anything but. I learned early on to keep my distance emotionally, even though we shared a home for 18 years. She kissed everyone on the cheek, including Derek, and I noticed the kiss lingered just a second too long. My stomach tightened, but I pushed the thought away. Surely not. Surely even Lydia would not cross that line. We ordered appetizers and wine. The conversation flowed easily. My father asked Derek about his upcoming promotion. My mother showed everyone photos from her recent trip to Arizona, and Lydia talked about her new apartment in the city. Everything seemed perfectly normal, perfectly fine. That should have been my first clue that something was wrong. Lydia was never content when things were fine. She needed drama, attention, chaos. Dessert arrived, a beautiful tiramisu with a single candle. Everyone sang happy birthday, slightly off-key, and I made a wish. I wished for clarity, for truth, for answers to the nagging feeling that had been eating at me for months. Little did I know that wish was about to come true in the most devastating way possible. After I blew out the candle, Lydia stood up. She tapped her wine glass with her fork, the sharp ting-ting-ting, making everyone look up. Her face glowed with a smile I had seen before, the smile she wore when she knew she was about to get exactly what she wanted. "I have an announcement," she said, her voice sweet as honey. "I know this is Gloria's night, but I just cannot wait any longer to share this news." My mother clasped her hands together, already beaming. My father looked curious. Derek went completely still beside me. "I am pregnant," Lydia said, her hand moving to her stomach in that universal gesture. "And Derek is the father." The silence that followed was deafening. It was the kind of silence that feels like pressure in your ears, like the world has stopped spinning. My mother gasped. My father's face went red. Derek started to stand, his mouth opening, but no words came out. Lydia's eyes were locked on mine, waiting for me to explode, waiting for the tears, waiting for me to give her exactly what she wanted, which was a scene, a drama, proof that she had won. But here is what Lydia did not know. Here is what Derek did not know. 3 months ago, I found a receipt in Derek's jacket pocket. It was from a hotel downtown, a hotel neither of us had any reason to visit. When I asked him about it, he said it was for a client meeting. But the date was a Saturday. The time was late evening. The pieces did not fit. So I did what any woman with a brain would do. I started investigating. I checked his phone while he slept. I found the messages, hundreds of them, between him and Lydia. Messages that made me physically ill. Messages that detailed their affair, their meetings, their plans. And then I found something else. Something even more interesting. 4 months ago, Derek had been complaining about feeling tired. He mentioned occasional pain. I convinced him to see a doctor to get a full workup just to be safe. What I did not tell him was that I specifically asked the doctor to include a fertility test. I told the doctor I was concerned because we had been trying for a baby without success. The doctor, a family friend, agreed to run the tests discreetly. The results came back 3 weeks ago. Derek is sterile, completely irreversibly sterile. A childhood illness he never told me about had left him unable to father children. The doctor said there was 0 chance, not even with medical intervention. So when Lydia stood there at my birthday dinner, her hand on her belly, claiming Derek was the father of her baby, I knew with absolute certainty that she was lying. Or more accurately, she was confused about who had actually gotten her pregnant. I let the silence stretch for another moment. I watched Lydia's smile falter slightly as I did not react the way she expected. I watched Derek's face go from shocked to panicked. I watched my mother reach for my hand across the table, her face full of sympathy and horror. Then I picked up my wine glass. I stood slowly, smoothing down my navy blue dress. I looked directly at Lydia and smiled. "Congratulations," I said, my voice steady and calm. "That is wonderful news." Lydia's eyebrows furrowed. This was not the script she had written in her head. My mother looked confused. My father looked like he might have a stroke. "Really," I continued, "I am so happy for you. Starting a family is such a blessing." I turned to Derek, who was now sweating visibly. "Is that not right, Derek? Family is everything." "Gloria," Derek started, his voice cracking. "I can explain." "Oh, I am sure you can," I said pleasantly. "But first let me share something interesting. Derek, do you remember last month when you went to Dr. Harrison for your checkup, the one I scheduled for you?" His face went white, completely white, like all the blood had drained straight to his feet. "I asked Dr. Harrison to run some additional tests. Just routine stuff, you know, making sure everything was working properly." I paused, taking a sip of wine. "Imagine my surprise when the results came back showing that you are sterile, completely and permanently unable to father children." The room erupted. My father stood up so fast his chair fell backward. My mother made a sound I had never heard before, something between a gasp and a wail. Lydia's face shifted through several emotions in rapid succession: confusion, disbelief, anger, fear. "That is impossible," Lydia said, but her voice wavered. "Is it?" I pulled a folded paper from my purse. I always carried it with me, waiting for the right moment. "Here is the medical report, dated last month, signed by Dr. Harrison. Derek has been sterile since he was 15 years old due to complications from mumps, something he apparently never bothered to mention to me in our 7 years together." I placed the paper on the table. My father snatched it up, his hands shaking as he read. His face went from red to purple. "So, Lydia," I said, turning back to my sister, "either you are lying about being pregnant or you are lying about who the father is. Which is it?" Derek finally found his voice. "Gloria, please let me explain. It was a mistake. It meant nothing." "Oh, I believe it meant nothing," I said. "But a mistake, Derek. I found your messages to her. Messages going back 8 months. Messages where you discussed leaving me for her. Messages where you laughed about how clueless I was." "That is not a mistake. That is a choice. A series of choices, actually." Lydia tried to recover. She always was good at thinking on her feet. "The test must be wrong. Medical tests can be wrong." "They can be," I agreed. "Which is why I asked for a second opinion. And a third. All 3 doctors confirmed the same thing. Derek cannot have children. Has never been able to. Will never be able to." My mother was crying now, but I could not tell if they were tears of sympathy for me or shock at the situation. My father looked between Lydia and Derek like he was seeing them for the first time. "If you are really pregnant, Lydia," I said, my voice still calm, still pleasant, "then you need to figure out who the actual father is, because it definitely is not my husband." I paused. "Well, my soon-to-be ex-husband." Derek reached for my arm. "Gloria, we can work through this. We can go to counseling." I stepped back away from his touch. "Work through what exactly?" "Your affair with my sister, your lies. The fact that you let me believe for months that something was wrong with me because we could not get pregnant, when the whole time you knew it was impossible." "I did not know," he said desperately. "I swear I did not know." "But you suspected, did you not? That is why you never wanted to see a fertility specialist. Why you kept putting it off whenever I brought it up. You knew something was wrong, and instead of telling me your wife, you started sleeping with my sister." The truth of it hung in the air, ugly and undeniable. Lydia sank back into her chair, her performance forgotten. She looked smaller, suddenly less sure of herself. "Who is it, Lydia?" My father's voice cut through the tension. "Who is the father?" She did not answer. She just stared at the table, her hands clenched in her lap.